What's the deal here? This place is filthy. You're obviously using your illness as a way to slack off on housework. You know how much I like things clean. Normally, you should come home even from the hospital to clean and greet your husband. The man I call my husband is likely not human. He must be a devil or something. Otherwise, how could he say such absurd things to his wife who is in the hospital for cancer? But what this clueless man doesn't know is that he is about to hear. I'm sorry, but your wife just passed away. These words are merely the prologue to the hell that awaits him. A message from the doctor. My name is Bella, a 32-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband Ronald for almost 2 years, introduced by a mutual friend. I wish I could say we have a smooth marital life, but that's far from true. Work is fulfilling, and I'm genuinely happy when my efforts are recognized. The job is going well, but these issues within the household? When I came home tired from work, Ronald, who gets home before me, is the one to greet me. As I change into loungewear, I ask, "Is a ready-made dinner okay?" Ronald sighs. Oh, you're cutting corners just because you work. Look at this. He shows me a picture of a lavish dinner spread. By the way, he's shown it to me countless times before. This all began when Ronald attended his high school reunion about a year ago. He changed little by little after coming back, influenced by something. He showed me a picture of trendy rooms saying, "I want to unify the furniture color and make the room look like this." Apparently, he went to a friend's lavish high-rise apartment after the reunion and started envying his friend's lifeless, chic room. However, that friend is a young and successful businessman. We don't make enough to maintain a lifestyle on par with his. Next, he suggests moving to an apartment that would cost 3 times our current rent. So, how are we going to pay for that? Ronald replies to my incredulous face, "You're good at budgeting, Bella. We're both working, so we'll figure it out, right?" I finally lost it with my husband, who just chuckled dismissively. Listen, enough is enough. I don't know if you're aiming for a luxurious lifestyle or what, but have you ever heard of living within your means? You talk about managing the household budget, but what about the money for the beer you're drinking right now? From now on, pay for it from your own pocket money. I glared at him sternly. He seemed frightened and sad. Wow, calm down. I was just making a light comment. It's a buzzkill when you can't even take a joke. He muttered under his breath, but I knew he was absolutely serious. Our fights increased, and I started experiencing stomach pain more frequently. At first, I thought it was just stress, but then something alarming happened to my body. Unexplained bleeding that wouldn't stop. I went to a nearby hospital and was diagnosed with uterine cancer. I shivered involuntarily, even though it wasn't cold. The doctor then asked me, "Do you plan on having children in the future?" I was in such a bad condition that preserving my uterus was unlikely. Removal was the best option. I'll discuss it with my husband. I couldn't stop the tears as I drove home. Losing my uterus meant I could never have children again. How will Ronald react? He loves kids. What if he leaves me? When I got home, my husband and I had a long, heartfelt discussion about the diagnosis, treatment, and how he felt about it all. He was deeply shocked, but we made a decision. I took a leave of absence from work and began my treatment. Ultimately, we chose to proceed with a hysterectomy followed by chemotherapy. On the day of the surgery, my husband took time off work to accompany me to the hospital. Even though I wouldn't be home for a while, he seemed oddly cheerful, which struck me as strange. After enduring an 8-hour major surgery, I lost my uterus. The doctor explained that I was at the lowest stage of the disease. During my hospital stay, co-workers and friends came to visit. When a friend with a child came, my heart ached with guilt. Walt and Amelia, my father-in-law and mother-in-law who lived nearby, also visited. Amelia followed her words of sympathy with, "We understand it's hard for you, Bella, but going forward, please manage the household and finances well." Walt immediately intervened. "Not now, Amelia. Bella, don't worry about it." I didn't understand their intentions at the time. As for my husband, Ronald, every time he came to visit, he was oddly upbeat. "You're going to be surprised when you get out, Bella. Just look forward to it." I had thought there might be a surprise awaiting for me based on what my husband said. But honestly, I was just happy that he visited me in the hospital. After a while, I got a temporary discharge from the hospital. I was thrilled to return home after so long, but I realized I would have to be readmitted soon for chemotherapy. My husband picked me up and said, "Don't be shocked when you see the house, okay?" A feeling of unease washed over me. What? What is this? The moment I walked in, I was stunned. Our home had undergone a complete transformation. What used to be a light, airy space with white tones was now dark and chic, filled with black furniture. My favorite sofa, table, and even the rug were gone. In their place were pieces that catered entirely to my husband's taste. Even the appliances were new and black, as if coordinated to match everything else. When I froze in shock, my husband gleefully said, "Cool, right? I did this all by myself. Oh, we can exchange the wallpaper back when we leave, so that'll be an extra expense." I felt like collapsing. I suddenly remembered something and rushed to the bathroom. I rushed to our bedroom, only to find it completely altered too. "Where is my dresser?" Caught off guard, my husband stumbled for words. Sorry, I got carried away and, threw it away." I exploded in anger. "Threw it away? Are you kidding me? I've told you how important that dresser is to me, Ronald. Bring it back right now." Every shout intensified the pain from my surgeries. Ronald paused before blurting out, "Well, what's thrown away is thrown away. Deal with it. So annoying." Then he stormed out. Alone, in this unfamiliar space, I sank to the floor. I couldn't hold back the tears. That dresser was a cherished gift from my mom when I first moved out for my job. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school, and I'd lived with my mom ever since. She passed away in a car accident not long after I got married. That dresser was irreplaceable to me, and I had told Ronald many times. Whether he understood or simply forgot, the fact remained that I had lost something dear to me. Between my hospital stays, life became a living nightmare. I had been looking forward to coming home, but my husband continued to be in a bad mood. He barely spoke to me, and when he did, he'd say, "You're home all day. At least do some housework. Look at this dust. Are you really okay with this? It's embarrassing for a woman." "I can't. I'm in a recovery phase and need to rest," I responded. "How about you do some things for yourself for once? You only clean what's visible, Ronald. You could at least clean the drain or the toilet sometimes." From the next day, my husband started to be passive-aggressive. He would deliberately avoid washing my clothes. And when he bought food, he'd eat it in front of me, flaunting it. Tired of his childish behavior, I relied on friends for groceries. On the day of my readmission, my husband didn't accompany me. I went to the hospital alone. The chemotherapy was more grueling than I had imagined. The nausea was one thing, but seeing my carefully maintained hair fall out was deeply unsettling. And my husband? Shortly after my admission, he left for an extended business trip. I thought he might call to check on me, but he never did. One day, my mobile phone started ringing repeatedly. By this point, I had no energy to talk to my husband. Just as I was hesitating to pick up, he called the hospital. Switching the call to speaker, I heard him yell, "What the hell is this? The house is a mess. You're obviously just using your illness as an excuse to avoid housework. I like a clean house. You should be welcoming me home by cleaning." Even the nurse who handed me the phone looked distressed. To my surprise, it wasn't me who responded to my husband's ridiculous words. "Unfortunately, your wife has just..." "What?" "She just finished her discharge briefing and is about to handle some paperwork. Could you please not disrupt her with your nonsense?" My husband's flustered voice came through the phone. "If you'd been listening, who do you think you are? You could just clean yourself. I've been a doctor for many years, and I've never met someone as unreasonable as you. You're annoying." The attending doctor promptly hung up. The doctor quickly composed himself. "I apologize for my outburst. I have a daughter, and I got emotional." "Don't worry about it. Thank you, doctor. I plan on divorcing him anyway, so it's no big deal." Upon hearing my response, the doctor smiled, clearly relieved. "Well, that's good to hear." After getting discharged from the hospital, I headed straight to a particular place. Not long after, my husband Ronald burst into the room. His face flushed. "Bella, why are you here?" Seeing me, he didn't offer a word of concern. He just stood there frozen. "It's Bella's discharge day, so we came to pick her up. Now sit down, Ronald." Amelia, sitting beside me, said coldly. It looked like Ronald was hiding something. He blinked rapidly, visibly shaken. "Don't you think you owe Bella and us an apology?" Amelia said, but Ronald remained silent. "Ronald, you asked us for financial help, claiming that Bella was overspending. Isn't that all a lie?" Walt's furious voice echoed throughout the room. Ronald had been lying, and it was a pretty nasty lie at that. During my second hospital stay, Walt and Amelia had told me something. "Bella, we know it's not the best time, but we're not exactly flush with cash either. We hope this will be the last time we have to lend you money," Amelia said with a concerned expression. What are you talking about?" We looked at each other and realized for the first time that Ronald had been lying outrageously. It turned out Ronald had been getting financial help from Walt and Amelia, claiming that my overspending was straining our budget. Feeling emboldened, he'd approached them for money several times. "If it's hard for you to say, I can talk to Bella about it," Amelia had offered, but Ronald had flatly refused. Naturally, his story was pure fabrication. Even Walt and Amelia had grown suspicious of Ronald, who kept asking for money while I was hospitalized. Then he apparently pleaded for help again, claiming my hospital bills were astronomical. Upon hearing this, I instantly knew where the money was going. I said to Walt and Amelia, "Once you step into our home, you'll quickly see what Ronald spent the money on." I handed them the house key. As expected, Walt and Amelia came back to the hospital room with astonished looks on their face. "What's up with that room? How much did it cost to change it like that?" I didn't hold back when I told them that Ronald had acted on his own without consulting me. I explained about the terrible treatment I received during my temporary discharge from the hospital, and said I had no intention of continuing our married life, and was planning to divorce him. The most frustrating part was that he threw away the dresser my mom had bought for me. "I'm not coming back." Amelia grabbed my hand. Her eyes filled with tears. "The dresser? He threw away the dresser from your mom? Ronald will pay for this." Amelia became very emotional. In fact, Amelia and I had an awkward start. But during a visit to her family home, I had admired a beautiful chest. "It's lovely," I commented. Amelia beamed. "Actually, this chest was passed down from my grandmother to Mom, and from Mom to me." When I told her about my cherished dresser, she responded, "That's so wonderful. Keep it close. I don't have a daughter, so if you want, this chest is yours." I was really happy when she told me that. I have no intention of continuing as a couple with Ronald. Think about it. If the roles were reversed, I'd want to slap you right now. Ronald, now yelling, responded, "Divorce is extreme. You should be grateful. I made that room stylish." "I have to live in a room that's not even to my taste," I shot back. "It's way too dark. Do you realize how depressing that is? Also, didn't you plan to use our joint savings for it, but couldn't because it's in my name? So you had to borrow from your parents?" It seemed that I was right. Ronald's face turned bright red, and he was speechless. We had a dual income arrangement. Living expenses went into an account in Ronald's name, while savings went into an account in my name. The primary purpose of those savings was for when we had a child. It seemed like when I got cancer, Ronald thought, "We can't have kids anyway. Might as well use that money for whatever I want." I was heartbroken by the situation. "Can't you see how much I've cherished Bella? How can you even talk about divorce? This is unfair." I looked at my sobbing husband with cold eyes. That's when Amelia, who was sitting next to me, chimed in. "Someone who really cares wouldn't say such awful things. It's no big deal if the house gets dusty when no one's there. Walt and I were right there when you made that ridiculous call to the hospital. We were so disappointed we could cry." Walt's face was flushed red, staring down at my husband. It was a relief to have reasonable people on my side. I finished my treatments, but that doesn't mean I won't relapse. Ronald, you don't even seem to care about my well-being, let alone my hair loss and frail body. All you care about is saving your own skin. That's why this isn't working. I've supported you, Ronald, but who's going to support me?" My husband lowered his gaze and said nothing more. After that, we finalized our divorce. Thanks to Walt and Amelia's intervention, Ronald wasn't pleased, but the division of assets went largely in my favor. Reluctantly, Ronald repaid the money he had borrowed from Walt and Amelia. I was shocked to learn it was a whopping $10,000. Turns out Ronald couldn't afford to keep the apartment we'd been so particular about, and he had to move out. The floors were scratched from dragging furniture, and there were even holes in the walls. Even worse, it turned out he had replaced the wallpaper without permission. He insisted these damages were there when we moved in, but backed down when the management company produced move-in photos. By the way, I was the one who provided those photos. So it looks like Ronald incurred some repair costs when he moved out. It wasn't a huge sum, but he couldn't even pay that. He asked Walt and Amelia for help, but they disowned him and kicked him out. Amelia later told me. He's in a cheap apartment now, struggling with debt. I still think he should have just made do with what he had, instead of living beyond his means. I heard from a friend, who works at the same company as my ex-husband, that he's now viewed as the creep who tormented his sick wife, especially among the female staff. He brought it upon himself. He'll regret it for the rest of his life. As for me, I'm savoring living alone again after years, all while keeping a close eye on my health. I plan to return to work once I feel more stable physically. My boss has been understanding, telling me to take it at my own pace. I'm so grateful. I still catch up with Walt and Amelia from time to time. It's really great, that Mom's dresser came back to you, Amelia says during one of our phone chats. I nodded in agreement. When I moved, I took some stuff I didn't need anymore to a thrift shop. While the items were being appraised, I froze. Wait a minute. There it was. My dresser that my mom had given me. Whether someone found it in the dump and brought it in didn't matter to me. It may not be a pricey piece, but there's no dresser that could replace it for me. A few days later, the dresser, now cleaned up a bit, arrived at my new place. Etched in small letters on the back corner of the dresser were the words, "Bella, never give up," penned by my late mother. Life has its ups and downs, but remembering Mom's words has kept me pushing through. And that's not going to change. I'm all set to live my new life with strength and joy, without backing down.